ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Welcome to the season finals event of the 2023 LEC. Yeah, my name is Quickshot. I'm joined by Dagda and Caedrel, and we are dropping in hot to pick some bans. Caedrel, Mad Lions had side selection. They went blue. Just before we get through these drops, are we expecting big changes on 13-15?
Well, there's a Taliyah ban already, so instantly targeting the jungle. Sejuani's been very high prior throughout the world, but I think the nerfs to Sejuani are pretty big in terms of clear speed, so we'll see if that gets touched. I don't think it will, but Maokai's still strong. Ivern, despite the nerfs, I think he's still got some strength to him with the buffs to his W, so we'll see what happens, but mostly looking at jungle and Kai'Sa being big.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Kai'Sa's still up and available as well. Xayah is starting to rise in priority. We see a lot over in LCK where they're opting into the Xayah first because it's just a decent matchup. So with that Xayah gone, it feels like Kai'Sa is definitely going to rise up. Rell, still a very big pick as well.
Let's find out what these first pick priorities will be. Kai'Sa has also seen some nerfs. We've seen Static Shiv tweaked as well. I'm secretly hopeful to see some AP junglers this weekend. Maybe it could come true.
Maybe. Great.
Tristan will be the next ban out. Finally,
Wow.
the LeBlanc. That's a surprise because we were anticipating a much lower priority on that LeBlanc.
Yeah, the LeBlanc changes to Static Shiv means she can't proc 9th Harvester on it, so I'm surprised to see that taken away. But Rell is open. I think it had some QOL changes, but the champion itself is still just as strong as always, easily flexible, and Hylissang would love to get his hands on that, so makes a lot of sense with Sejuani falling off and Maokai being banned to just pick up a Rell for engage.
Yeah, I mean, she's super strong at the moment. There's not a huge amount that can really go toe-to-toe with her. She just does so much work when it comes into it, though. Kai'Sa is still up and available. I wouldn't be surprised to see this taken here.
I think the Alistar as well is something we have to keep our eye on because Limit's Alistar has been constantly banned away, and I think that's one of his best champions.
Now, interesting, just before we get these bans, for Mad Lions, obviously we haven't seen them in several weeks. They only have 2 games of Rell played all summer. One in the jungle, one in that support role. And of course, for Excel, what will their priorities be? Renekton in the top lane, the Alistar, ding ding, well played there, Caedrel.
Yeah, I think this is one of his best champs. I think in the finals, it was constantly just taken away from hero bans, right? So make sure you want to have that into the Rell, which is a good support matchup. We'll see if Hilly changes the plan. Rakan's open, the lane would be a bit tough, but there's a Renekton also taken away for Odoamne. So Chasy could match with Cassandra or something like this if he wants.
Yeah, that's the option here for Hilly to go for something like the Braum as well. Just take that, so then you've got a decent matchup on that bottom side of the map. Ivern is going to be hovered, so they are actually going to just immediately put the Rell into that bot side. They're not even going to try and keep the hover up and available, and Nisqy is going to go back towards the Azir.
So the Ivern changes are interesting because it's to me, it's labeled as a nerf, but to me, I think it's actually a buff because his W is stronger for his allies, so on-hit damage. And his shield, as much as it doesn't scale with AP as much, the base of the shield is higher. So I think we were talking about it, the cutoff is at 100 AP, but Moonstone and such only gives something like 35-40 AP, right? So it's not like you're going to break to that point anyway. And Daisy changes with the Smite, even though she got nerfed in that sense and is weaker, the Smite doesn't do as much. There's a Kalista for Patrik.
Not only are the changes pretty significant, when you consider Elyoya, what, 300 odd professional games? 2 Ivern games ever. It's not a champion I would have associated with him as a player, so to speak. We'll see what he does in it. The crowd in Berlin loving the Kalista lock-in.
I think there's a little bit of background information here, because even for the Taliyah, Elyoya has only played it once in his career as well. So it definitely feels like these 2 teams are coming in well prepared here. So for the Varus now taken off the board, definitely going to be looking towards that bot side. And this is kind of just a call out saying, look, you can take the Kai'Sa if you really want to. Kalista works wonderfully into it. You've already got the Braum there, but a decent matchup into the bottom lane as well. So I think the big question mark now is what do you try and take in the mid lane to try and answer this against Nisqy, and already they're trying to get rid of the Ahri for Abbedagge.
Yeah, I think something like the Nico or the Annie would just be ideal. Anything that can really throw itself in there. I mean, we've seen Abbedagge's TF. I wouldn't want them to pick that on 4 though, because you can match that with things like the Jackson top into the Renekton ride, and it just becomes a little bit tricky for the TF. But of course, XL will start to target the AD carry role. Could look at Ezreal. You know, you're playing Kalista Alistar. Ezreal is something that can easily escape the clutches of the Kalista Alistar, but they're going to go for the Draven ban instead to make the lane a little bit less volatile.
I'm trying to figure out what kind of happens with stuff like the Poppy as well. Maybe you go for something like a Poppy here for Feature in the jungle, just to try and set yourself up into a decent spot, because, I mean, Rell crashed down, you can try and get onto the Azir, and it has been so strong, and especially when I think back to the series we saw between Mad Lions and Excel, and how much of it came down to the setup around objectives where Excel were able to get that advantage. I think something like a Poppy that works well could be the option.
I really like the Poppy, but I also like the Poppy on Mad Lions, like a Poppy top.
Yeah, good work.
That would do so much work for their draft against Kalista, Renekton, Alistar. So we'll see what they do with the Poppy pick. Expecting mid here in jungle on 5, but if they want to deny something like the Poppy, that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out exactly. I mean, oh no, we're gonna go back to this whole story. Okay.
The FLICKR classic.
Yeah.
I think he's the only person in the world right now playing Corki. Gonna pick it into the Azir.
And then Abbedagge.
Abbedagge, that's exactly it. But I do like the idea of a Poppy top now for Mad Lions. course, they're going to have to pick up their AD carry. Ezreal would work in terms of the lane itself. Of course, it can't win, but I mean, it does negate a lot of this engage heavy that they have here, XL. It's just, there's never really a good option here unless you're fighting fire with fire. There's the Poppy top. I think that's a phenomenal pick for Mad Lions. Maybe looking at something like the Jinx here.
Yeah, I think having that little bit of scaling could do nicely here because realistically the Azir is going to match the Corki in the later game, and if you can bypass the Kalista early, maybe. But yeah, I think the Jinx is a bit of a rough one just because of how aggressive that bot lane could be. So it looks like it will be the Ezreal, as you were saying.
Yeah, do you round this out with a Trundle? I mean, it's not the most ideal situation, but could look to go for something like a Trundle into the Poppy. We were talking about AP junglers rising in priority, and with a lot of the engaged junglers down. Unless you're going something like Wukong, I feel like that's the direction you're looking at. You don't really want to pick a dash champion.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I mean, Karthus did get both coming in,
AP jungler,
but I don't think so. Yeah, Viego probably be an option.
Viego's
I'm also... Yeah, I think Viego's your best bet here. We've seen it a lot over in the LCS, doing a lot of work over there, and now we're going to get to see it on the LEC stage as well. I think he got great engage, nice setup, good skirmishing, especially around this top side with Renekton Viego. It feels like that, even onto the bottom side as well, is going to be your best option.
So 2 quick little throwaways here. Obviously, FLICKR's at World, spoiler in case you didn't know that. And Corki and Azir are back. The last time we saw it was in spring 23. The Corki lost, just as a tidbit. Let's zoom out just before we hit the rift. How do you want to see these teams play out to actually win with their respective comps?
I mean, Mad Lions have just answered XL, right? They picked Ezreal into Alistar to negate the lane. They picked Poppy into this Kalista Renekton so they can negate the engage, and they have more range, right? So scaling would be great for Mad Lions. Any kind of skirmishes they'd want to avoid, whereas XL will try to force and take as many fights as possible.
And one of the things I liked about Mad Lions when I was looking back on their series was in the early stages, they'd actually do relatively well at playing around Nisqy. And when you got the Ezreal in the bottom lane, you unlock Hilly to try and play around Nisqy. And I think that's where they're going to try and focus. But I need to see them take step 2 and 3 better, where it's, okay, we get control for Nisqy. Now we set up vision. Then we start to lean into the bot lane. That used to be the Mad Lion way, and a lot of the ways teams would play with Nisqy, but we haven't seen that come to fruition for Mad Lions this place.
We haven't seen Mad Lions in just a month and a half. What have they done in that downtime? Will they be able to stand up and reverse the result from the last best of they played against XL? We are going to find out in just a few moments as everybody around the world. Let's get ready for Summer's Rift between Mad Lions and XL. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Woo! Now, Berlin, can I just say thank you so much, because the energy in the room is fantastic. And for everybody watching around the world, yes, it is an earlier start time, but we've got some banger games ahead of you. We've also got a little bit of a surprise, a new sort of update to our HUD once we get in game. Get to that in a second. Gentlemen, we didn't get to say hi. We didn't really get time to set the scene.
Everyone's ready. Season finals.
I mean, look, we want to get to
5
game.
seconds in.
That's what we're excited for. The winner of this series guarantee themselves a spot in Worlds. They're one step closer to Montpellier. It's like super, super exciting. Looking towards the final. Should we talk? Are we surprised by draft? Let's stay serious for a second. Are we surprised by how it played out?
I think so. There's a few interesting bans. I'm surprised Sejuani got banned. Ivern instantly taken away. But other than that, everything seems normal. Good news. We're getting back into game. Couple seconds away. I think we're ready to go.
Did you see that in game? Did you get that from producers? We're going to find out. Hold your breath. Hold your breath.
We should be.
We're loading into game. Let's do this one more time. Okay, super quickly as we do head into the game, I want to introduce everybody to the all-new view that we're launching for LEC. It's the live team fight view. You'll see this pop up at the bottom of your screen during team fights. It'll consolidate all the core information you need for the fight. I'm not sure if that popped up or not. Unfortunately, the pauses are interrupting my throat. What I will say is this. We've got some cool stuff to come up. I think I'll explain it when we see it live, producers. We should get in the game and then focus on the game.
I think Peach has got some audio issues. I can see him fiddling around with his headset.
I have heard from the production team that there are some settings-related queries, which the players are currently looking into. And I think it's a little understandable. 3 weeks away at least since they've been on the stage, longer for certain members of the teams here, especially the Mad Lions, obviously. And of course, with the stakes at hand, taking their time. So, Rob, you didn't get a chance to talk about the draft.
I was just laughing because it's heartbreaking that like Mad Lions are going for an invade on top side, and it's like, all right, 2 pauses in a row. It's like, what the hell are you supposed to do?
I think they got spotted as well. So Odoamne is kind of like, well, I know they're there, and it's paused. So what are we going to do, guys? Because he just saw all 5.
And also, you're not allowed to
speak.
speak, right? You're not allowed to speak
You're
anymore.
not allowed to speak. Yeah, I think it's after about 10 minutes. I think
Which
you're
one
allowed
of
to speak
us was
about
the
game.
pro that played with those rules again?
That's true.
Well, I mean, look, after I moved across
Well, you know,
the
at least-
LPL, it's still in the back of my head.
You can all think about it, you know. You can all have, like, what is your plan? No, but I think we're going to see a lot of action on the side lanes. You know, Abbedagge and Nisqy will just be relaxing. I mean, they can recline their chair a little bit with their Azir Corki, but it's all the side lanes that are going to start having
Can
a
your
scrap.
seat do this? And they fling themselves fully backwards.
Do you remember the players that, like, in pauses just do a full, like,
Yeah.
Recline.
full
I'm
recline?
gonna talk about. Do you remember Prolly by any chance when he
I
was
do,
still playing?
yeah.
He was the most uncomfortable person to watch because he sat in the least human poses. For anyone who's been around a long time, like
The
knees
knees
up
up
to
on
his
chair.
chin,
Yeah, I don't know how
chair
you do
all the
that.
way back. Like,
Bro,
yeah,
that's
Bruce-
you go full
Bruce-
like goblin mode. That's like the best like late night gaming posture you can have.
Obviously, if you are just joining us, first of all, apologies about the pause, about the delay. There are some players looking into their settings, getting themselves comfortable before we dive into this best of 5. Thank you for joining us earlier. It is an earlier start time today and tomorrow. 3:30 today, obviously, 3:30 tomorrow. And with a little bit of luck, I'm going to see the gameplay playing. I'm going to do
we're
my own
back.
mistake. We're going to jump back in. Okay. Are we going to try this, producers? I think we are. Okay.
I'm watching their
Right,
keyboard to see
so
if I'm
look
right.
at your screens, look at your screens. If you're watching at home, take a look. This is the pop-up. It'll consolidate the information. So we've got all of their HP, their kill streaks, cooldowns, certain callouts for important active items. In theory, this has improved visibility for who's going to be dead, who's still in the fight. And we get to all test it and see it out today. We really would love to hear your feedback on how this plays out on our Discord at discord.lec.gg. Now, let's turn back to the game. We talked a little bit about Silence, talked a little bit about the invade. It fizzled. Dagda, where would you like to guide our vision for this next moment or two?
I think the big one is just trying to wait and see exactly how Mad Lion's going to try and operate. I mean, when you have the Ezreal, I think you want to try and get Hilly out of the lane, but I'm curious to see exactly how he wants to link up. Because as Caedrel's kind of saying, you've got Azir versus Corki in the mid lane. It's not exactly the most high-octane gameplay in the world, so...
Whoa!
That, however, is
Carzzy
Limit.
reacts in time to the Q flash from Limit.
Okay. I mean, nicely done. In fact, he's able to get away from there as well. Now, 2 flashes gone. Hex Flash still on Limit, though, so I'm curious if this is now trying to set up for some sort of early play on this bottom side, especially with Peach trying to come in. You still have Arcane Shift on Carzzy, so should be able to mostly get away from things, but we'll have to wait and see.
That's exactly it. I think the Arcane Shift is just something that you really want in the Alistar. You know, like Alistar and Sivir great, Alistar and Ezreal not the best. Looking for the Hex Flash here. Can we get the camera on Elyoya, observers? I want to see if he does the Ivern tech. You know, I always do this when it comes to it. Cue the blue, blast cone, do the wolves. No, he doesn't know.
No.
How boring of him.
So how angry does that make you?
Slight.
Because I watched back the clips and even made it to the patch breakdown with Medic as well.
Yeah, the efficiency's just disappeared. But it's actually not that bad if he's going to go back towards bot side against Raptors. But XL are crashing a big bot wave. Peach is full clearing, so they can't really act upon this bot wave. Maybe best thing they can look for is a base.
We're going to find out. All right, just a quick reminder. In case you haven't been watching, remember, how many games in a row have Mad Lions lost?
9.
Nine games in a row. Do you want to know how long it has been since Mad Lions have won a game? 55 days, 17 hours, 45 minutes. It's all the way
You're counting
back.
the second.
That is exactly what I'm doing. Now, the reason I will bring that up is one of the last times we actually saw this team perform, it was against XL. And Mad Lions lost 2-0. And if you take a look at how XL picked that one up, they smashed with kills. And if I recall correctly, it was that Hylissang game as well. Really surprising popping off. It was Peach really stepping up.
Yep.
34% of the game time was the major lead. Now, the reason I set all that up, with XL making it to finals, and with how Mad Lions' summer has been, I believe that the underdogs coming into today's series, and they are the ones that have to surprise us. Right now, it is Elyoya shadowing this bottom lane. Peach is nearby. As Elyoya look for that engaged tool, because if he does, Peach may be able to respond.
I think it's so hard to just count Mad Lions out like that, though. I mean, this organization, since it joined the LEC, has not missed Worlds ever. So the fact that they now are 1 win away from getting back to Worlds, and when the chips are down, that seems to be when they step up. We look back at, you know, the fact they won a split where everyone was like, there's not a hope that these guys are ever going to make it in spring, and then suddenly they're just like, no, this is our year, this is our split, we're just going to do it.
I mean, just one last little tidbit to set the scene for today. Graphics you see on the bottom, those are the teams that have made it to Worlds for the last few years. Winner of this series goes to Worlds, and it's been a pretty small club. Will XL be able to do it?
Even if you look at 2019 Splice and Mad Lions, you know, it
That's
still kind
it.
of overlaps in some sense. So yeah, Definitely, if XL come in here, first time for the organization, first time in a long time we've had at Worlds. Ooh.
Oh, crash down comes out.
Oh, Limit.
Strike, Limit goes forward below 100. First blood picked up by Hilly. Limit, I'm not sure that was the right call.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake from Limit. The fact that he went in that far, you'd already had Patrik walk away, he's going to be fine. And he burnt the cleanse as well. Just complete miscommunication on the side of XL's bot lane.
Yeah, just trying to disengage perhaps there, save Patrik, but yeah, no flash. Doesn't have phase rush either, so he's got no way out. Might have Nimbus Glow or something with the Ignite, but he kept that up. Nisqy will find Peach, take away a couple of the small Raptors. Patrik can stop the base here, but Hilly's blocking the Q. Carzzy saying maybe we can chunk him out. So actually,
Essence
no
Flood,
cleanse.
exhaust as well. Flash is still available for Patrik, but that Shattering Strike won't connect. Limit makes it back in, but that's a gigantic chunk.
Yeah.
Gold is dead even. Keep an eye though, because of Odo and Abba, with their respective lane matchups, they do have a small CS advantage while Abba's been chunked down below 150.
It also means that Carzzy and Hilly are going to get that push in bot wave. So Patrik now also giving the kill across, now going to lose out on this wave on bot side as well. So big win for the Mad Lions bot lane. And I mean, you're playing Ezreal. This isn't supposed to be a lane that you're going to just handily take over, but at the moment, Mad Lion are doing just that.
And interesting as well, the way Limit has played this lane, that very early flash, Hex flashing constantly, actually jumping into save Patrik when maybe he didn't need to. I also personally just love seeing first pick champions getting the first sort of strike, first move. That Rell, high priority for Mad Lions, and already Hilly with that small lead.
Yeah, and it's actually quite detrimental to the game state for itself, because if you look at and you actually zoom out and think about Ezreal, Azir, Ivern, with a Poppy blocking any form of engage from things like the Renekton, Kalista, Alistar, how do you really touch them? How do you really get on this backline? Yes, you've got a Corki package, and maybe the Corki can get some items to poke them down, but in a raw 5v5, the amount of damage that Mad Lions have in range is absurd. So XL really need to get the ball rolling, because if you don't, then you're going to lose River. And if you lose the River playing Kalista, Alistar, and you have to face check into these champions, there's no way you're going to be able to retake. So you need to start getting the snowball. There's the first dragon coming across.
So step one at least, Dragon secured, taking advantage, I think, of a little bit of that lane that they had. They are still behind a tiny bit in gold, but as far as stacking the dragons go, when you talk about scaling, you talk about the options of the Azir, the Ivern, the Poppy, that's going to be one of those potential win conditions. We haven't looked too much at this top lane, obviously because of the trading elsewhere, and as expected, Odo's small lead, the wave is moving a little bit towards him at the moment.
I think we will start to see some action up here though. You've got Rift Herald now in a minute 15, Peach's camps on this top side are also spawning, and I think if you can try and get a play onto Chasy before that kicks off, you can then use that skirmishing power to look for that early Rift Herald, even Odoamne getting a ton of damage onto Chasy.
What a trade!
Yeah.
There's no support yet from either squad though, so that's going to be Chasy just moving backwards. Still got a couple of cookies, no TPs available either. And I keep looking at the minimap where the wards are being placed. Less than a minute to go until the Herald does spawn.
He's trying to clear out some minions. Level up right now. Hilly might be looking on Patrik if he gets the stun.
Patrik, Shattering comes out. Very good Pulverize headbutt there from Limit to interrupt it.
Really good disengage. Yeah, Peach managed to push Elyoya back, but he's going to have his blue buff up now. He's going to be able to smite that and then get towards level 6. The Herald is spawning in about 30 seconds, but Mad Lions have the bot push. XL have this top side push. No TP on Chasy to recover himself out of this lane.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. I mean, has the biscuits there to at least try and help out a little bit. Pop one to keep his health bar up, but realistically, you're in a lot of trouble, and especially as Corki has push in mid, now starts to leave the map. He will get spotted on some of those wards in River, so it won't be any sort of dive moving into the top lane, but you can still see XL very much want to try and move up towards this top end and continue to focus on these objectives.
It will be ideal for XL to slow this down a little bit, though, as much as they want to keep the ball going. 2 minutes from now, Corki will have the package, so it's not the end of the world if they wait it out, but Peach is just going to start it up straight away. So Chasy's in base, Odoamne is pushing out top. Midwave's contested by Abbedagge, but it's just a case of how quickly can the bot lane get here at Mad Lions. That's the strong point. Limit's going to be a little bit late, but Hilly will be here first. He's very close to 6 there. Maybe he's telling Nisqy, don't kill the wave yet, let me get a couple creeps. And then maybe he can ding over to that 6, but he didn't get it. Still going to try and contest.
Down 2,000 hit points. Hilly's making his way up. Chasy coming 2. Herald down to 1,700. Odo's dropped low. He'll secure it now, waiting for the eye pickup. That's already a kill for Odo, and XL are on the board. The slam against the wall from Chasy slows Peach down. But they get the Herald, they get the kill, they get the eye, and they get out.
I'm surprised that Mad Lions try to commit as heavily to that as they did. XL have great skirmishing with the Viego, the Renekton, and even Abbedagge have been pushing mid. And they had to basically ignore the Corki who's just whittling them down this entire time as they try to reposition. So XL, they get the Herald, they get the kill, and now they have an opportunity to pick up that package we're talking about as that Dragon's coming up with the Rift Herald to put pressure on the map.
What I'm seeing is this snowball starting to build up. The Dragon, the Herald, the kill, the package, but Abbedagge may need to use this flash. He's low on mana. Hilly and Elyoya pushing him forward. There's not a lot of damage, but enough to force the flash, so another small win. And Caedrel, you were talking a little bit about momentum needing to be built up. There are some tools and some stages for XL's early game plan.
And surprisingly, it's not through bot. I mean, they do have a Renekton, so fighting topside's pretty straightforward and easy. The call in these kind of team fights, Odoamne will just press ult in a second and just flash W anyone. Nisqy walks up way too far at this point. Maybe feels safe with Hilly behind him, but he's melee range with a Viego. So Odoamne just says, hold on a second, flash W, and down he goes. That's the power of Renekton in the early stages. Reset comes through, and despite Hilly being there first, a bit too far forwards there from Mad Lions.
Yeah, it felt like they'd overcommitted to the top half of the fight and just left themselves completely vulnerable because Abbedagge was in behind them. So, bit of a weird call. And now XL in a position, as you said, you've got Rift Herald that's available. They're going to be able to keep that shove in mid with Abbedagge as well, having just completed the Manamune. So, the only thing you have to worry about is, well, Carzzy, who's got a 500 gold lead, but he hasn't really hit his breakpoints yet because he's had to start off a tier.
And the other thing as well is, when you do look at the Mad Lions, their damage sources are really heavily Azir Ezreal, right? So when you do think of those skirmishes and the 2v2s, 3v2s, especially in the early stages, you kind of lean a little bit towards XL because of how many more options they will have to play around. And you see the 700 gold in the lead for Odo on the top lane, plus 20 CS. Despite being dead even in the mid lane, look at the advantage Peach has been able to accrue as well. And it's only Carzzy for the time being currently in the green for Mad Lions.
I'm curious what Mad Lions want to try and do, because I think there is a window of opportunity here where Chasy has his TP up and available. They want to try and make some sort of play on the bot side, but Peach trying to move into the top to keep pressure there for Odoamne, so he can't really make anything happen. Like, even with the push, you need to try and crash this wave and get the bounce back. So it feels like Mad, their windows of opportunity to make things happen just really aren't there. Although XL with a late reset here.
Yeah, late reset, but 30 seconds on the spawn. Limits coming out of base with wards. Abbedagge's gonna have the package now. And it's a very interesting scenario in this game state because no one's got their breakthrough item in a sense. Carzzy doesn't have the Essence Reaver yet. Nisqy doesn't have Leandry's or whatever item he's building to Crown, whatever it may be. There's no Sunder on Peach, no Blade of the Ranking on Patrik, but even without Mythics, I think the base damage from XL, the champions are just stronger in these stages and they have a package. So maybe Mad Lions want to consider dropping this objective, but by the looks of it, they're going to go through bot. They realize they can't go through mid and they want to contest this. The only worry I have for them there is Herald mid, right? You can really start to push down that lane and Mad Lions will waste a lot of time down here. See if Patrik can join his team though.
It does feel like a little bit of a lose-lose though here for Mad. If you try and position mid lane, you just rotate XL from Dragon to bot lane to use Rift Herald there. XL dropping the Rift Herald in mid now because they see all those members of Mad Lions in the bot lane, means that they have to get gold into Abbedagge as well. So he now starts to push up towards his item break points instead. We're starting to move down to this bot side though. It looks like Mad still want to fight this.
Yeah, package is running out, so if they want to engage here, XL, they got to go now.
Wait, where does the Valkyrie go? Elyoya is nearby. 3 members of Mad Lions
almost off.
Staring down 4 of XL. Teleports available for Odo and Chasy. The line is dropped as Valkyrie is thrown out. Daisy has been channeled and teleport now coming down from Chasy. I think he's a little bit low on mana though. Once he does, I think actually recalls that one. All of a sudden it was Nisqy joining the fray. Dragon now low. Here comes Odo. All right, waiting for the ensuing fight. Dragon secured by Mad Lions. The numbers advantage. Commit the 2 TPs and push them away.
It's just Chasy TP, and I think XL are posturing and they're fake pressuring the Dragon. They're saying we're going to engage. So Chasy says, okay, I'll TP in to help you to make sure you can't get engaged on, and Odo's the winner.
And I think this is one of the big learnings that XL actually took away from G2, because G2 are a team that love to do this. So like, we don't really care about dragons. We care more about, we will get Rift Herald, we will play for gold, and then we'll come back with a 4,000 or 5,000 gold lead and fight you at, you know, 3rd dragon or 4th dragon. And it looks like XL are kind of using that to their advantage here as well. We've now got Gore Drinker on towards the Renekton. Odoamne's in a great spot. We got the charge on mid. Like, the gold lead is starting to slowly but surely go in favor of XL.
I really don't think Chasy had the TP there. It looked like the situation XL was backing away, but the second the TP came in, they definitely said we're backing away. I feel like it should have been more of a reactive TP because the amount of disengage that Mad have and the amount of tools they have to kite out XL, right? But we'll see if Chasy's in trouble here. Looking for that plate, we'll get the demolish. Has the W to stop the combo, so it's a bit of a mind game here from Limit if he wants to knock him up.
Patrik's also finishing off the Krugs there. If you do look at the minimap, Hylissang could have arrived, I think, in time, so ultimately nothing comes from it. A couple plates bounce back. Chasy is still 1,000 gold down. And Odo, the recipient of another plate, continues to accelerate ahead on that Renekton as XL maintain a minor 400 gold lead.
The problem is though now you've got TP advantage for XL as the Rift Herald's about to spawn. So you can see Mad Lions trying to see if they can get control over River to maybe look for a pick before this comes up, because otherwise you're just going to have control with the mid lane push for Abbedagge, Odoamne potentially TPing in, and even these deep wards from XL coming in as well are going to make sure that Odo has some good flanks. Although Abbedagge...
Oh, he gets caught out, stunned down, Magnet pulled backwards. Able to escape with his life for now, but a heroic charge from Chasy. Holds Limit in place. There's no damage to follow it up. There's no Ezreal, there's no Azir. There's nothing Mad Lions can do. They at least get that flash once again. out of Abbedagge, but nothing more.
It's a huge mistake though, because Abbedagge got caught, Odo had to TP early, and now you get the chance for Azir, he's already pushed out wave of bot, to now join. So XL are now down on HP, down on spells, and Mad Lions are able to fight his 5 with this next Rift Herald.
Limit just cancelled his recall though, and Abbedagge has TP, so maybe without the ultimate on the Alistar, they're considering a fight. I mean, he has Kalista, right? So he has a bailout. Flash combo from the Alistar, that's your engage tool, gets pulled out, so the lack of the ultimate is kind of negated in that sense. Gonna heal up with the Honey Fruits. Now the question is, XL, do you want to fight Herald or do you want to get bot tier 1? You have 2 options to go for, and the bot tier 1 is the safest. You can buy time here.
Each gets stunned up. Hilly pulls him backwards for now. True shot barrage flies in. Patrick's trying to hop, skip, and jump, but it's Hilly that's got the first. Teleport finally arrives, but it might be too late. Abbedagge bucks over the wall, firing out the rockets, and Odo has got himself a double and stayed alive thanks to that dominance. Mad Lions forced backwards. They've lost one of the damage sources. It's a 1-for-2 fight.
Odoamne is pulling so much weight in these fights, isn't he? I mean, it's Peach that really struggles to even find any damage to get a reset off, but Odoamne basically solos out the backline, gets Hylissang, gets the stun onto Nisqy when he dashed a little bit too far forward, and Abbedagge TPing in just in time to get that kill.
Yeah, I mean, Renekton at this stage of the game is absolutely noxious. He bit the Gore Drinker as well. I mean, I've seen in several regions where he's putting off like 1v2, 1v3 plays to get kills. And when you're in a skirmish like that, that's exactly where Odoamne wants to be. You'll see it here as we come into it. So XL going that little bit too far forward with Peach, and Hilly comes in, but Nisqy goes in to try and get the big swoop and boop to set up this play. But he doesn't actually get onto Patrik, who flashes away. You've yoinked out Limit, so Odoamne is just kind of in the backline then, absolutely murdering folks, so where everyone else on XL can focus down Nisqy.
What a reaction from Patrik. You know, Nisqy's just going instantly with a very short range dash, not very long range, not enough, not a lot of time to react, sorry. And yeah, Patrik manages to react to it to stop the fight from going.
Well, Patrick,
It's head.
huge, especially when you consider the influence he can have. Elyoya just gets caught out. I think he may have felt setting up a play could have been on the cards. Ultimately gets punished. The 4th kill secured by XL. We managed to extend that gold lead 2,000 for now, and after what we were anticipating, like a lot of shenanigans on the Herald, they end up just being punished, and first tower goes the way of XL. Another step towards this like snowball and momentum you wanted.
Mad Lions, what they're doing doesn't make sense. Elyoya is hovering bot to try and defend Chasy to defend the tower, while Hylissang's hovering to dive the Renekton top and force a top tier 1. I feel like if Elyoya was top there, you're cross-mapping, you trade towers, you play for Herald, right? There's no TP on the Corki. Or, alternatively, if you really want to defend that bot tower, I mean, Hilly could be down there and you could look for a pick onto the Corki with no flash, but both plays are good. Just choose one, right? Why are they splitting up to opposite sides of the map?
It's a question that we won't have the answer to just yet, and more importantly, we need to keep tabs on how Mad Lions continue to play throughout the series. You know, I was taking a look at some of their prep. For Mad Lions, when you take a look at like their early game from the regular season to then groups, their average like negative gold was -180 during the regular season. When they went to groups, it jumped to 700 down, like a significant step down, obviously crashing out. Dagda, when we were talking a little bit about Mad Lions and what to expect, theoretically, we were hopeful that we could have seen some growth, some development, right? Not to write them off already, but when you do see some of these mistakes creeping in, you start to get a little nervous.
The problem that I've had with Mad Lions is basically what Caedrel just pointed out, is that they don't really seem like they're on the same page. And at the beginning, they can get some good plays around Nisqy, but it just never really amounts to anything. And you can see it again here, where they haven't even managed to get really much in their way. We'll get the first tower here in the mid lane for themselves, at least, as XL will get the dragon, but maybe they can trade it for top tier 1 as well.
Yeah.
But it is, actually, this is a play where it's like, okay, this is actually decent for Mad Lions, but they just have to get out now.
Let's find out if they can.
Hilly just based.
Will just about finish. Tower secured in the top lane. Mad Lions will have that advantage for now. But pressure mid here. Multiple members of XL. True-shot barrage will try to clear that out.
Yeah, so like you said there, Doug, the mid and top tower fall, XL get the dragon. I think on the back half of the play, in the next minute or two, XL should be able to re-answer top and get top tier 1 in return. So in the long run, XL will win out on the dragon. Just a case of whether Peach gets caught, it's going to use the unstoppable.
We're going to find out. He's still got that flash available to him. He's going to get caught, knocked up, pulled back, and Mad Lions, they invest a lot for the kill. What is available? Top tower's down, mid tower's down. The wave's not set up for bot just yet, but it is a kill secured nonetheless. It also goes into Carzzy's back pocket, which is one of the crucial members for this composition to work together.
Oh, Hilly.
And now Hilly finds himself caught up. Where's the rest of the support? Crashes down over the wall. Gets stunned up, held in place. That's 1,000,001 spears. The support from Chasy. Patrik's the target. He won't find the red just yet. He manages to do it. The martial poise, hop, skip, and jump. Now, while Patrik's running for his life from Nisqy, the Sand Soldiers secure it. The top lane will fall to Abbedagge. 2 kills go to Mad. The tower goes to Excel.
There's no world where that should have been 2 kills over towards Mad. The fact that Hilly was that overextended, nearly manages to escape, but drives Patrik and Limit over the edge and pulls in 2 kills for Mad is absolutely insane. But as you say, tower goes down for Excel, but this is still Mad now with a ton of tempo advantage, being able to get out on the map burst, push in waves, and actually start to threaten some of the last outer tower in bot lane, and then start to set up vision as well for themselves in River.
What was Hilly even thinking? You know what? I'm not even going to question it.
Hang on, there's a sentence that has been said countless times before.
He found a bush and he claimed the bush. This is his bush. You do not enter the Hylissang bush, and they entered it, so they got punished. Even in a 1v2. Jumps over the wall, baits him into him. Chasy comes in time to lock down the Kalista. TP comes in from Nisqy, I believe, on the backside to make sure Patrik dies. Good play by Patrik to actually get the kill, but you don't enter Hilly's bush and get away with it.
I don't even know what to say to that, to be honest. I'm baffled that this actually ended up happening. Now Hilly wants to find another bush.
Is that one more of the professor's lessons or not? We'll have to find out later from the madman himself. Ultimately, it keeps us suppressed. 5 kills apiece, 1,000 gold separating the team, 2 towers apiece. And this is like very, very close game to start it off. I think it is fair to say there's been some head scratches over the last 20 minutes in terms of gameplay, but we're setting ourselves up for some very spicy team fights.
Oh yeah.
Caedrel, I think you asked a question that I cannot wait to find the answer for. How do XL get to the backline? How do they get through Ivern, Daisy, Poppy, Rell?
I don't know.
And that's what I want to see them execute. Can they find that flank with this Renekton that is still 2,000 gold up despite the teams being even in gold?
Ezreal has no QSS or cleanse. I think it's on Odoamne to try and find a way to dash through the Poppy when W's on cooldown. And then landing that flash stun, maybe a follow-up of a package, or Peach can get in range to get that reset. The Ezreal needs to die. I feel like if you're playing front to back, you're getting outranged, outpoked, and you don't have enough tools to break through that front line. So they need to flank, or they need to find a way across. Mad, maybe looking at a Baron here, gonna start it up in Fog of War. XL have absolutely no information. Loreb's gonna come out though.
Gonna find out what happens if they're interrupted. Yes, they do. Find themselves out. He's able to slice and dice his way to out. Give me one quick second as you're talking about Carzzy and Patrik. I just want to highlight some interesting numbers. We're running a little later than planned, but damage share for the respective teams. Carzzy #1 as far as the ADC, and then you can see the damage per minute and the numbers and how they differ. For the fact that Carzzy's on this Ezreal and the way that early game has played out versus Patrik on that Kalista, they are going to be crucial for the respective teams to find victory.
They really are, and it's Carzzy getting the upper hand right now, up a level, almost 2 levels if you actually look at the experience bar. As Odoamne trying to get the Daisy down.
Okay,
could be an engage here. Odo is just knocked up.
Knocked up. Tomlinson Quadrinker buying some time. He's blown up. The damage comes down from the Azir. Nisqy's happy with that one. Now 5 versus 4. Keeping in mind, Patrik wasn't with the squad either. The bush has been claimed. Do not enter Hilly's territory. He has a history and years of experience setting up death bushes, and he's keeping it going today.
That's the most vicious horse I've seen in a while, but it does mean the Mad Lions are able to move over towards the Baron and pick this one up for themselves. XL are going to move to bot side, start to push out the waves, and maybe look for the Dragon as it spawns, but Mad turning this game around like no one's business.
I mean, Hylissang singing, "Ooh, that's dirty," give it a lick taste just like Baron buffs as Mad Lions strike first on the big purple worm.
So Odoamne tries to pick a fight with Daisy, and Daisy seems to get the knock up and wins. Hylissang then joins that fight, and Odoamne dies. And I feel like if you look at the actual entirety of the game, they're playing Kalista, Alistar, and Ezreal. They didn't get a lead, they fell behind. The Renekton got ahead against Poppy, but that just stops Poppy from buying Ruby Crystals, right? She's just going to be slightly less tanky, but her job is the same. It's to stun you, and it's to stop you from entering team fights. As we go through a little crab rave onto live, we'll see if a Dragon gets started up here from Mad Lions.
Yeah, and it's as you say, I mean, if Odoamne doesn't have anyone to really hit with his spells or the Guldborg, he's not healing up, so Mad Lions just nicely taking these picks, playing at range, making sure that you don't really have an option. That's going to be second Dragon now for themselves as well. And you can see at least XL trying to move into this top side, like push out that top lane, make sure that there's at least windows of opportunity where they can try and keep Mad off their towers. But with bot now going down in a pretty big wave, I wouldn't be surprised to see Mad just congregate on this bot lane wave and look for the tier 2 as well.
2 dragons apiece, and also keep in mind when they do set up, as long as Mad Lions have got good vision, they are going to be able to keep XL at bay. They've got a lot of strong disengage tools. It's going to be even harder for XL to find those initiation angles once they begin to lose territory. The observers do a great job of highlighting how much awareness there is. Hilly defending the flank on the left-hand side. Carzzy, Elyoya going to be able to have those options to fall back if XL pull the trigger.
Look at the Kalista items, level 11. He's 3 levels down on the Ezreal. with 1.5 items. The Kalista really can't get through this front line at all. 4,000 damage dealt by Patrik this game. XL really haven't been able to incorporate the Kalista lane ever since, you know, they lost out on that 2v2 early on where Hylissang got the first blood, right? So this is where the later stages of the game come back to bite you if you don't get those leads when they have more range and more damage and more scaling.
We'll take
flat out.
Siege, Red Bull Baron, power play in effect, plus 2,800 already. Odo, Limit, Peach. You can smell they want it. Find the engage onto Hilly, but I don't think they want it. Magnet Storm followed by the flash, and who gets out? So it could be able to be enough. The mid lane tower falls. The Sand Soldiers go out. It's a 1-for-1, and Patrik's able to waddle away to safety. True shot barrage for the snipe. It's sidestepped right between the uprights. No goal secure by Mad Lions.
XL trying to take the fight before Chasy can get in there, but not fast enough. Mad Lions group up, and they manage to crack open this bot lane turret.
Believable start to this one is now all of a sudden XL trying to turn this around.
Package on Corki. Maybe they want to slow chase this a little bit.
4,000. Here comes the puppy. Waiting for that W. Can cut them off. What else is there to play? 3.5 for Dragons. Only 2 apiece. They've got supers pushing towards them. Peach still chasing. Packages available. I don't know if they want this fight, but it looks like they were considering it very, very heavily.
Yeah, they had package. If they had stopwatch on the Corki, maybe it was viable. Package in, stopwatch, and then your team can follow up. But this is it again. Mad Lions on the siege. Limit tries to look for an engage.
Yeah, they get onto Hilly there just as he comes in, but with the Magnet Storm actually pulling people around, Odoamne kind of gets stuck in the front line. And then watch Chasy. Able to separate it, the fight as Limit goes back in. Manages to set up then as well to just buy space to turn that kill back in their favor.
The Azir damage is insane, isn't it? Patrik got hit 3 times by a soldier and he was already below 5% HP and had to run away.
I mean, listen, you guys highlighted and explained it. The challenges XL have to deal with in terms of its composition. I really like the breakdown in terms of how the early game, especially the bottom lane, the fact that Hilly and Carzzy were not necessarily held back, how that kind of unlocked so many options here for the Mad Lions. And now 6 towers to 2, 3,000 gold up. It's Mad Lions looking to lean on that experience, lean on that history they had. We talked a little bit about how many times they've made worlds. I mean, take a look at how many times the Mad Lions players have played in playoffs, right? How many splits they've attended. 18, 7, 7, 5, significant amounts more experience on the side of Mad. And it's kind of why I expected Mad to do better in the best ofs earlier in summer. And it was a bit surprising they didn't. So now for Mad, we're going to strike first in this best of 5, sieging down another tower. And Caedrel, this game is looking all but done for Mad.
I like Mad Lions' game plan. Just keep it simple and just play scaling front to back and really just try to deny the enemy team's draft win conditions. You know, the Poppy, the Rell, the Ezreal against Alistar. Just really don't give them an inch in terms of fighting fire with fire. You know, you just evade everything they want to do and slow them down and see if they can keep up with the pace. And then for game 2, if Mad Lions were to lose, then you can start fighting back a bit with fire, right? But I think Mad Lions have found a very good way of just keeping XL at arm's length.
Let's find out how Mad Lions look to close this out. Look at the mini-map. Super minions pouring into the base. And setting up on the top lane tower. Grouped up. Here comes the engage from
Carzzy.
XL.
What?
Limit gets the knockup and good by Carzzy. XL fans hoping they go crazy, but Limit's forced to flash. Here comes Odo. Emperor's Divide is going to be sliced and devised forwards. Another great knockup from Limit, but there's just too much damage, too much CC, and too many Mad Lions to break through. For the first time in 55 days, 18 hours and 9 minutes, Mad Lions on the crest of picking up their first win after a 9-game loss streak. It started a little scary, in the mid-game it looked a little hairy, but Mad Lions closed it out in dominant fashion.
Oh my god, it looked like they'd thrown it all the way though. Carzzy E4s into a combo, but it's Nisqy that keeps them alive. Lots of damage there from the Azir. And like I said, Trevor, it's been ages since they've tasted victory, but they'll find it here in this best of 5 to Worlds.
The fact that Nisqy stayed alive in that last fight was absolutely absurd. The Emperor's Divide to keep Odoamne off, the flash just before the rest of follow-up CC came through. Like, you saw how quickly Carzzy just disappeared, and Nisqy somehow managed to get out of that and stay alive, even with Patrik trying to dive in on top.
Really good throwing by Mad Lions, and now it's on XL. They know Mad Lions' game plan. It's to answer XL in draft, play slow, scale, and keep you at arm's length. Does XL match that and say, we'll play scaling, you know? We'll drop the Kalista and go for something like a Xayah or a Kai'Sa or something, just match hypercarry with hypercarry.
I mean, that's the question, because coming into today, the fact that we are playing on 13-15, a little bit surprised by, say, the LeBlanc pick, some of the priority on them. How does this adapt? How does this evolve throughout the course of the day, throughout the course of this best of meta? And then the next question is, what will side selection have here? Mad pick blue side. They started well. I think in particular that Rell Ezreal it unlocked so many tools. So pressure on XL, but we have seen them be able to do it throughout the course of summer. We'll find out exactly how well they can do that. I hear post-match is just about ready, so let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much. We are ready. And there were a lot of things, I guess, that we previewed that ended up playing out. Excuse me? I was just being talked to. I have voices in my head,
yeah,
okay?
I hate it when
That's
that
why
happens.
I was sleeping in the studio. What I want to say is, a lot of things that we talked about before the series and were talked about also by Mac really panned out. I feel like in this first game so far, what comes to the top of mind is kind of Elyoya and Hyli working together and Hyli making an imprint on the series, and on the other side, Odoamne. So which out of those were the most important in this game?
I mean, I think we absolutely saw Elyoya, maybe not so much early on, right? In bot lane, there was the 2v2 kill that Hyli ended up supporting in. But then later, when it came to setting up around like the objectives of the Baron, I think that's really where it showed like that duo is in line, right? Because like Hyli was doing some crazy stuff going into the enemy jungle. You remember that bot river fight where he's so far forward, and it was almost less him and Elyoya going and fighting together, and more Elyoya being like, "Hey, I'm Ivern, so you're allowed to do this crazy stuff," and he can come in with a
Production was trying to tell me that replay isn't ready yet because they ended so fast, but that's
well,
okay because we can still talk about how important.
Yeah, but I mean, Hyli for sure was definitely the difference maker. I think Hyli, I don't know if he left, but he's certainly back. Like, what he did in this game is just classic Hyli. And so much of it came from the early bot lane aggression, but so much was also the follow-up in a situation like this, which I think we can all agree we thought he was insane. But
yeah,
reality is,
Hyli
wasn't necessarily insane in this place because he had the entirety of Mad Lions ready to collapse, already in with a TP play. So what looked like it was just going to be an easy kill for XL actually turned in for a 2-for-1, and a lot of map pressure as well. They get to push the bot lane after this. They have respawn time. A lot of XL was up on the top side, and then a lot of the gold that XL put in a member was on Odo, and immediately towards the Baron, he's the one they catch out. Win condition for XL, gone.
And when it comes to that setup there too, like this had been going on for about a minute and a half where they were just playing forward, right? Again, like staying inside of their own brush, setting up for a pick. But even before the Ivern sort of entered the field, like they just had full control of that big red buff bush that gets expanded on the ocean map. Like Hyli was just planted in that. Didn't seem like XL could really get into their own jungle. And while Hyli is sort of post up looking for an angle, and the fog of war is really concerning for XL, the rest of the team with an Ivern can just keep starting Baron up on repeat.
It's quite interesting to me how Mac was talking about how, like, when they're on the same page, it all works fantastically. And Yamato didn't bring it up in rehearsal, but when we were in our story meet a couple of days ago, he said Hyli is so emblematic of how the team is doing, because if he's feeling empowered to make these plays and they work out, which of course they don't always tend to do, then this whole team becomes completely different. I think that's what you saw. Once they started winning the skirmishes and winning the fights, they never let up.
Yeah, and I think it's so crazy that a team like XL that was on such a good trajectory has just been broken by Mad Lions.
It's only one game.
Yeah, but still, Mad Lions was on that 9-game losing streak, and we just look at Mad Lions like, oh, they're back. But it's actually been a while since we've seen Mad Lions playing this good of League of Legends. And I think it comes from a lot of different fronts, but I still think your testimony is true. Like, had Hyli not been the support in this game, it probably wouldn't have been that easy.
What I will say is this didn't feel to me like it was sort of like older style Mad Lions, which is like a very aggressive mid-jungle, like making plays that are in the early game, roaming and fighting around mid. This was more of a control comp from them, right? With the Azir and the Ivern as a mid-jungle duo, like very much set up to team fight and blow up any of the engages that XL could throw their way. XL's comp felt maybe a little bit disjointed in that way, and it was always going to be hard for them to access the back line, and that's where they're going to have to adapt maybe moving forward.
Yeah, and that's what you see pan out as the game advances, of course, but it wasn't all bad, and I don't think XL got blown out of the water completely. Of course, it looks like that if you just look at those end game fights. Guldborg, but you were calling out the fact that Odoamne had a great game in the beginning phase of that. He kind of did everything correctly.
Yeah, I think this game still panned down to what we expected from the top lane. In this scenario, Chasy recalls to join this second Drake fight. Now, the context is XL has already picked up the first Drake. They can give away this second Drake. So what really happens here is XL just says, we're going to back off. You can have this Drake. And Odo gets so fed. No one is up here in this top lane to actually respond to it. He sits on 2 items almost before anyone else. And because of that, he gets to pop off in a team fight like this as well. So right now, despite having the Kalista and Alistar lane, a lot of the gold and the entire carry is actually on Odoamne. He has to be the one that steps up, which is why it's even more unfortunate that he met the fate he did around the Baron when Hylissang caught him out, because as soon as your highest fed member just dies like that, so does your win condition. So for XL, they played towards a risk. They played towards a top laner, and it didn't pan out, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that maybe there was a world where they could have tried to play more around bot lane as another option too, but of course that 2 versus 2 did not go well for them, right? With Limit falling very early on. Sort of looking at the draft, that's what it seemed like, was like side lanes was where there was a little bit more playmaking options, and then the Corki can come online as a big late game carry. But I have some serious concerns when it comes to like Renekton, Kalista being pretty limited range against the poke and disengage
Viego as well,
options
right?
that,
Like it just doesn't help.
It's
your
hard.
case.
It's
She just
really
like
hard.
said there was a Corki, and I was like, I didn't even remember the
we didn't
presence
get
in
to
the game.
the Corki time, right?
Yeah,
The-
Corki
Culture
timer.
didn't get to the Corki time.
no, it's like, well, what is it? You know, there's BC and there's AD, right? There's before Corki and there's after death of the Nexus.
I see.
GG.
GG. Only one game though, and you know this is where you have to rally because you know if you manage to turn this around, if you manage to win this series, you find yourself at Worlds, you find yourselves in Montpellier, and that's why I think with the turnaround we've already seen from Excel this year, we should expect them to have more in the tank. Obviously, they have elected to move on to the blue side. So you said already, backlane access is what we need. Is that all?
Well, yeah, I want them to go back to what was working for them, right? Because I think that the main thing they showed was excellent team fighting and playing heavy scaling. Here, it was like, yeah, they have the Corki element of scaling, but the rest of the team really isn't in that same sort of like idea compositionally. So I'd like to see them draft something that looks more like a Mad Lions comp, or if they want to play harder for like early game fighting or mid game fighting, stuff like this, a better mid jungle duo. The Corki plus Viego, I just don't think can get a lot done on its own.
I agree with all of Ender's points, but I also think the first game was winnable for sure, and therefore they shouldn't have too much pressure in the draft phase itself. I think when it comes to the game plan, and specifically that mid game, they need to continue to do what Excel did so well, which is their objectives, the team fighter later on.
It worked. So if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Don't fix it.
Don't fix
yeah.
it. Exactly.
Just keep on keeping on.
Yes, Matt, they break their 9-game loss streak and they take
It's
the
broken!
first step towards Montpellier. And Worlds will be right back with game number 2.
They're going here?
Go.
To ping?
No flash Azir, then we go Azir.
Yeah, Azir.
My E in 6, I don't have combos.
I need help.
Same thing again, okay?
Look me?
Yes.
I'm looking one here,
Okay, watching.
Okay, look.
Okay, nice.
Here comes Odo. Empress Divine is going to be sliced and devised forwards. Another great knockup from Limit, but there's just too much damage, too much CC, and too many Mad Lions to break through.